The sun hung low over Charleston, casting golden rays through the oak trees draped in Spanish moss. I watched the bustling streets from my office window, the vibrant colors of the local festival beckoning me like a distant dream. Life had become a series of routines, meetings, grocery lists, and the mundane chatter of my husband's daily life. I felt trapped in a cycle that no longer excited me. The thought of a corporate retreat on a remote island stirred something deep within, a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could find a spark again. The invitation had arrived weeks earlier, adorned with images of sandy beaches and tranquil gardens. My colleagues spoke of it with enthusiasm, but I felt an unsettling mix of anticipation and anxiety. This was supposed to be a break from the monotony, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that it would only amplify my discontent. The idea of spending time away from my husband filled me with guilt, but the thought of escaping my reality was intoxicating. As we boarded the ferry to the island, I took in every detail, the salty breeze whipping through my hair, the laughter of coworkers mingling with the sound of waves lapping against the hull. It should have been liberating, yet I felt tethered by invisible strings to my life back home. My heart raced as we approached our destination. This was more than just a retreat, it was an opportunity for change. The resort was stunning, a collection of charming cottages nestled among palm trees, each one promising an escape from everyday life. Yet as we settled into our accommodations and mingled over cocktails at sunset, I couldn't help but feel out of place. My colleagues were animated and carefree while I remained an observer in my own life. That evening, while wandering along the beach alone, I stumbled upon him, Ryan, my boss's son. He stood at the water's edge, his silhouette striking against the fading light. We exchanged pleasantries before falling into easy conversation about our lives and aspirations. There was something magnetic about him, perhaps it was his confidence or his carefree demeanor that drew me in like a moth to flame. "Are you enjoying your time here?" he asked casually. "It's beautiful," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. A welcome change from Charleston. As we talked about our lives, his dreams and mine, I felt an unfamiliar thrill coursing through me. With every shared laugh and lingering glance, I began to forget about my responsibilities back home. For once, I felt seen and appreciated beyond being just someone's wife or an employee. But as our conversation deepened under a canopy of stars twinkling above us, anxiety crept back in like an unwelcome guest. Was it right to feel this connection? Shouldn't loyalty take precedence? My heart battled with reason as Ryan leaned closer to me. He seemed to sense my turmoil. "Sometimes you just have to let go," he said softly. His words lingered in the air between us like an unspoken invitation. The weight of commitment pressed down on me as memories flooded back, my husband's warm smile and how we used to laugh together before life became routine. But here on this island, surrounded by beauty and possibility, another part of me craved freedom from those chains. Just then, laughter erupted behind us as some colleagues strolled past on their way to dinner. Reality crashed back in like a cold wave. What would they think if they saw us together? What would my husband say if he knew? "I should get back," I said abruptly, breaking our moment before it could deepen into something more complicated than either of us intended. Ryan nodded slowly but didn't move away from me yet. "I'll see you later then?" "Of course," I replied nonchalantly even though uncertainty gnawed at me inside. As night fell over the island resort and laughter filled the air around me during dinner with colleagues, I struggled to focus on conversations about work and team-building exercises planned for tomorrow. My mind kept drifting back to Ryan, the way his eyes sparkled when he laughed or how effortlessly he engaged everyone around him. Later that evening, while sitting alone on my cottage porch overlooking the ocean waves crashing rhythmically against the shore, thoughts swirled around like leaves caught in autumn winds. What if this retreat could be more than just an escape? What if it became a turning point? But then reality hit hard. What did this mean for my marriage? Could one weekend really change everything? The weight of commitment pressed heavily upon me as doubts clawed at my mind like shadows lurking just beyond reach. I sighed deeply into the night air filled with salt and mystery before retreating inside where comfort awaited but also confinement, a reminder that choices had consequences far beyond this momentary thrill under starlit skies. The next day dawned bright and warm. Anticipation buzzed among colleagues as we gathered for team-building activities designed by upper management. Trust falls and obstacle courses meant to forge bonds while reinforcing corporate loyalty seemed painfully ironic now that I had tasted something different altogether. As laughter echoed through lush gardens surrounded by tropical blooms bursting forth vibrantly against azure skies overhead during our first activity session led by Ryan himself, a charismatic leader who thrived under pressure, I couldn't shake off feelings swirling within me despite efforts made towards maintaining professionalism amidst all distractions surrounding us throughout each passing hour spent together during lunch breaks filled with casual banter exchanged freely between bites taken. Joyfully alongside him seated across tables laden down heavily beneath platters brimming over generously prepared dishes crafted lovingly by local chefs showcasing Gullah culture proudly represented here too amongst festivities happening nearby later. Tonight after work concluded officially marking end-of-day celebrations planned ahead eagerly awaited by everyone present today, including myself hoping desperately not only for connection but also clarity amidst confusion reigning supreme ever. Since arriving here initially seeking respite away from home-front struggles faced daily alongside loved ones left behind temporarily behind closed doors firmly locked shut keeping secrets hidden safely tucked away deep inside hearts yearning desperately still searching, endlessly perhaps even hopelessly searching still. But then came whispers carried forth upon gentle breezes rustling softly through palm fronds swaying gracefully overhead reminding us all why we'd come here seeking solace amidst chaos reigning supreme outside these walls built strong enough withstand storms brewing just beyond. Sightlines drawn clearly separating worlds apart colliding head-on inevitably leading towards unexpected outcomes awaiting patiently lurking around corners waiting silently until moments arrive when decisions must be made ultimately defining futures unknown yet tantalizingly close enough grasp firmly hold on to tightly without letting go. The evening air wrapped around me like a soft blanket as I stepped out onto the balcony of my room. The sounds of laughter and clinking glasses drifted up from the beach below, where my colleagues mingled under a canopy of stars. They seemed so carefree, lost in the moment, while I stood there feeling like an outsider looking in. I had come to this retreat hoping for a break, but all I found was a gnawing sense of discontent. As I leaned against the railing, thoughts of my husband crept into my mind. He had always been supportive but distant, consumed by work and responsibilities. I recalled our last conversation before I left for the retreat. "You'll have fun," he'd said with a distracted smile, his eyes glued to his laptop screen. The weight of his indifference hung heavily on my heart. But tonight was different. The island's enchanting atmosphere sparked something within me that had long been dormant. My gaze drifted across the sandy beach to where Jake, my boss's son, stood laughing with a group of our coworkers. His easy charm and infectious laughter drew me in like a moth to a flame. He caught my eye and flashed a grin that sent a flutter through my chest. "Hey, Lily. Come join us," he called out, beckoning me over. I hesitated for just a moment before stepping away from the railing and walking toward him. The sand felt warm beneath my feet as I approached the gathering. As we shared stories and laughter, I found myself forgetting about my worries, if only for a little while. "Isn't this place amazing?" Jake asked, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "It really is," I replied, surprised at how easily the words flowed from me. I needed this escape. He nodded knowingly as if he understood more than he let on. There was something magnetic about him that pulled me closer, igniting emotions that had lain dormant for far too long. As the night wore on, we moved away from the group to find some quiet space under the stars. The gentle sound of waves lapping against the shore provided an unexpected backdrop to our conversation. "What do you think about all this?" Jake asked softly, gesturing toward the festivities behind us. "It's nice," I said slowly, "but it feels different." He stepped closer, his presence warm and comforting. "Different how?" I hesitated. It felt wrong to divulge too much about my marriage when he was so full of hope and possibility. But there was an undeniable connection between us that urged me to open up just a little more than usual. "I guess I'm just tired of feeling stuck," I admitted quietly. Jake tilted his head slightly as if considering my words carefully before responding. "Life has its way of keeping us in boxes sometimes." There was an intensity in his gaze that made it hard to look away. Suddenly caught up in the moment, I leaned closer, instinctively drawn by an invisible thread connecting us both. The world around us faded into nothingness as our faces hovered mere inches apart. It felt exhilarating yet terrifying at once. Then it happened, without thinking or weighing consequences. I closed that distance between us entirely. We kissed. It was soft yet electrifying, a spark igniting something deep within me that had long been buried under layers of obligation and routine. The kiss broke abruptly as we both pulled back slightly in shock at what had just transpired between us. My heart raced wildly as guilt washed over me like cold water from an ocean wave crashing against rocks on shore. "What did we just do?" I whispered breathlessly. "I don't know," Jake replied with an edge of uncertainty lacing his voice. "But it felt right." "Did it?" In that moment under the stars with him standing so close beside me, everything else faded away. The weight of expectations and commitments seemed insignificant compared to this fleeting connection we had forged together amidst chaos surrounding us both. But reality came rushing back like a tide pulling at my feet when thoughts of home invaded my mind again. My husband waiting for me back in Charleston, unaware of what transpired here tonight or how deeply conflicted I now felt inside myself after sharing such intimacy with someone else entirely outside those boundaries established long ago when vows were exchanged. As we stood there silently contemplating what came next, what would happen if anyone found out? I couldn't shake off feelings stirring within me even amid confusion reigning supreme over everything else swirling around like storm clouds threatening rain overhead readying themselves for release any moment now. We returned to our colleagues reluctantly after what felt like hours spent lost together beneath night skies filled with shimmering stars above casting gentle light upon secrets kept hidden within hearts yearning desperately still searching endlessly perhaps even hopelessly searching still. The following day dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to my internal turmoil brewing just beneath surface calmness exuded outwardly as everyone gathered again for activities planned throughout day ahead filled with team-building exercises meant foster camaraderie among colleagues while simultaneously pushing personal boundaries further than ever imagined possible. But all I could think about was last night. The kiss shared beneath those stars illuminating paths chosen unwittingly leading toward unforeseen consequences lurking just beyond horizon waiting silently until moments arrive when decisions must be made ultimately defining futures unknown yet tantalizingly close enough grasp firmly hold on to tightly without letting go. The sun climbed higher, casting golden rays across the island, illuminating the paths winding through the lush greenery. As I joined my colleagues for breakfast, laughter and chatter filled the air, but my heart was heavy with unspoken thoughts. The thrill of last night lingered in my mind, but so did the weight of my marriage. Seated at a long table adorned with fresh fruit and pastries, I picked at my food, barely tasting anything. My mind wandered back to that moment under the stars when our lips met. The kiss had ignited something deep within me, a flicker of excitement I hadn't experienced in years. But now, guilt crept in like a shadow, tainting what should have been a joyous memory. "Lily, you okay?" My colleague Jenna's voice broke through my reverie. She leaned closer, concern etched on her face. "Just tired," I replied with a forced smile. "Long night?" Jenna nodded knowingly. "Corporate retreats can be exhausting." She glanced around before lowering her voice. "I heard some interesting things about last night's activities." My stomach twisted at her insinuation. Had word gotten out? The thought sent a fresh wave of panic coursing through me. What do you mean? I asked cautiously. Oh, just rumors, she said lightly, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. You know how people love to gossip. I offered a non-committal nod but felt my cheeks flush with embarrassment and fear. What if someone had seen us? What if they knew? The morning passed in a blur of team-building exercises that felt increasingly pointless as I struggled to focus on anything other than the consequences of my actions. Each laugh shared with colleagues felt like a betrayal to my husband, who remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within me. During a break between activities, I wandered away from the group to gather my thoughts by the beach. The sound of waves crashing against the shore soothed me momentarily until memories of last night flooded back, his warm breath against my skin and that intoxicating kiss that had stirred feelings I thought long buried. As I stood there lost in thought, I spotted him, my boss's son, walking toward me with an easy confidence that drew me in despite myself. His smile was disarming as he approached. Hey, he said softly, glancing around as if ensuring we were alone. Thought I'd find you here. Just needed some air, I replied, trying to maintain composure while my heart raced at his presence. He stepped closer, his gaze intense yet inviting. Last night, it was something special. The sincerity in his voice sent shivers down my spine. It was both thrilling and terrifying to acknowledge our connection openly. I shouldn't have, my words trailed off as uncertainty washed over me again. He reached out slightly as if wanting to bridge the gap between us but hesitated just enough for doubt to creep back in. You're not happy in your marriage, he said gently. The truth hung between us like an unspoken agreement, a recognition of what lay beneath our polite facades and everyday roles. I'm just confused, I admitted finally, feeling vulnerability seep into my voice. His expression softened further. He stepped even closer until there was barely any space left between us. You deserve happiness, he murmured before leaning in again. Our lips met once more, a brief moment filled with longing and uncertainty that made everything else fade away for just an instant before reality crashed back down around us like waves upon the shore. Suddenly aware of how exposed we were under the bright sun and open sky, panic surged through me again as I pulled away slightly. What are we doing? I whispered urgently. I don't know, he confessed with a mix of frustration and desire dancing across his features. But whatever it is, it feels right. Before I could respond or make sense of what was happening between us, before any decision could be reached, a familiar figure appeared on the beach, Tom, my husband's best friend and one of our colleagues from Charleston. Lily, he called out jovially as he approached us without noticing our charged moment lingering in the air. My heart sank at being caught off guard. Instinctively stepping back from him felt necessary yet wrong all at once as Tom continued toward us obliviously. Hey! Everyone's looking for you too. He grinned widely before turning serious for a moment. Confusion flickered across his face as he studied our expressions closely before shaking it off again quickly enough not to dwell on anything unusual about our interaction. Right, I managed weakly while exchanging glances with him before Tom clapped his hands together cheerfully and motioned for us to return to the group waiting nearby for another round of activities planned ahead throughout day ahead filled with team-building exercises meant foster camaraderie among colleagues while simultaneously pushing personal boundaries further than ever imagined possible. As we walked back together, Tom leading while we followed, I couldn't shake off how precarious everything felt now that secrets had begun slipping through cracks previously unnoticed before this retreat began unraveling threads binding lives together tightly enough that change seemed inevitable yet frightening all at once. Later that evening during dinner under strings of twinkling lights strung across open-air dining area overlooking ocean waves crashing rhythmically against rocks below, I caught sight again of him across table filled with laughter echoing around while still feeling heavy burden resting squarely upon shoulders unable escape reality pressing firmly against chest like weight too great bear alone anymore. As conversations flowed around me, I found myself tuning out most voices surrounding dinner table focused solely on one person seated diagonally opposite where warmth radiated from every glance exchanged between us despite distance separating hearts longing connect deeper than mere words could ever convey fully without risking everything already precariously balanced upon edge cliff threatening plunge into unknown depths below. But then suddenly amidst laughter erupting from colleagues gathered nearby, I noticed something shift within atmosphere surrounding us. A tension building gradually yet unmistakably palpable each passing moment until finally breaking when Tom leaned over toward me casually asking about plans for next day retreat while simultaneously dropping bombshell question lingering unspoken since arrival here earlier this week. So Lily, what do you think about this place? Any thoughts about staying longer? Caught completely off guard, I stammered briefly searching desperately for words capable masking true emotions swirling within heart racing wildly against constraints imposed by responsibilities tethering life choices made long ago yet now feeling increasingly suffocating instead liberating. But just then, a flash caught corner eye. A glimmer reflecting light shining brightly from direction where Tom stood earlier holding camera capturing moments shared among friends gathered together enjoying evening festivities blissfully unaware turmoil brewing beneath surface quietly threatening unravel. Everything carefully constructed over years spent building foundations meant withstand test time itself. And suddenly dread washed over me anew, images flashed through mind. Of photos taken without consent capturing fleeting moments shared secretly hidden away behind closed doors until now when everything threatened collapse exposing truths better left buried deep down where no one else could see them clearly enough recognize consequences. Looming dangerously close ready strike without warning. The air was thick with tension as I stood frozen, caught in a moment that felt like an eternity. Tom and I had been lost in our own world, but now it was shattered by the unexpected presence of a colleague. Jenna, always the observant one, stood with wide eyes, her mouth slightly agape as she processed the scene before her. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice steady yet laced with curiosity. The question hung in the air, heavy and unyielding. I could feel my heart racing, pounding against my chest as if trying to escape the reality of the situation. Tom stepped back instinctively, his expression shifting from surprise to concern. "Jenna, it's not what it looks like," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. But even as he spoke, I could see that he knew the truth couldn't be easily dismissed. I glanced at Tom, searching for reassurance in his eyes. There was a flicker of uncertainty there that sent a fresh wave of anxiety coursing through me. Did we just ruin everything? My mind raced to consider the implications of being discovered, how it would affect not only our lives but also our families and careers. "Really?" "Because it looks like you two were having quite an intimate moment," Jenna replied, crossing her arms as if to shield herself from the weight of our shared secret. Her tone was teasing but edged with seriousness. She had always been one to relish gossip. "Let's just talk about this later," I urged, desperate to diffuse the situation before it spiraled out of control. "We can explain everything." Jenna raised an eyebrow skeptically but nodded slowly. "Fine," she said finally, though I could tell she wouldn't let this go easily. "But you two should be careful." She walked away, leaving us in a silence that felt suffocating. The thrill we had shared moments ago faded into a dull ache of guilt and fear. I turned back to Tom, his face mirrored my turmoil. "What do we do now?" I asked quietly. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his posture. "We need to be more discreet," he replied firmly but with a hint of uncertainty creeping into his voice. Discreet? It felt impossible after what had just happened. How could we pretend nothing had changed when everything felt so fragile? The weight of my marriage loomed over me like a dark cloud threatening to unleash its storm. As night fell over the island retreat, We found ourselves retreating to our separate rooms under the guise of attending evening meetings scheduled for team-building activities. But instead of focusing on work-related tasks, all I could think about was Tom and what lay ahead for us both. Later that night, unable to shake off my thoughts about him or Jenna's warning, I found myself wandering toward Tom's room, instinctively drawn by an overwhelming need for connection amidst chaos. The moonlight illuminated the path before me as if guiding me toward an uncertain fate. I knocked softly on his door. It creaked open almost instantly, as if he had been waiting for me too. His eyes widened in surprise before transforming into something deeper, an invitation wrapped in longing. "Lily," he breathed out my name like a prayer as he pulled me inside and closed the door behind us. In that small room filled with shadows cast by flickering candles and muted laughter from outside festivities fading into silence beyond our walls, everything else ceased to exist. Our worries melted away as passion took hold once more. We spent the night together. I whispered breathlessly against his lips before surrendering myself fully to him again, a reckless abandon driving us deeper into each other's arms while reality faded into distant echoes outside those four walls. But even amid our intimacy lingered an undercurrent of anxiety. Every kiss exchanged tasted bittersweet, flavored by guilt gnawing at my conscience like an insatiable beast demanding attention too long neglected. As dawn broke over the horizon, illuminating remnants left behind, the warmth of shared moments juxtaposed against chilling reminders, I knew this could not last forever. Secrets have a way of surfacing when least expected. The next morning brought with it clarity wrapped tightly around dread. How would I face my husband after spending hours lost in another man's embrace? The thought alone sent shivers down my spine, a visceral reminder that choices made carelessly often lead down paths better left unexplored. Yet still, there was something intoxicating about this newfound freedom. An exhilarating rush coursing through my veins, urging me forward despite knowing consequences awaited just beyond reach, like shadows lurking at every corner ready to pounce when least anticipated. I dressed quickly while stealing glances at Tom still asleep beneath rumpled sheets, a beautiful picture contrasting starkly against growing chaos brewing within me. The perfect embodiment of everything forbidden yet desperately craved, too long ignored until now, awakening desires long buried deep beneath layers built up over years spent adhering dutifully to expectations set forth by society and family alike. Stepping outside felt surreal. The sun shone brightly overhead, casting rays across vibrant gardens alive with color surrounding us, while laughter echoed from distant gatherings, reminding me how easily life continued on without regard for decisions made behind closed doors where no one else could see or hear what transpired. Hidden beneath surface appearances crafted carefully over time meant concealed truths best left undiscovered. But those truths were clawing their way back into consciousness, demanding acknowledgement whether ready or willing accept them or not. Lurking dangers threatened unravel tightly woven fabric holding lives together. My marriage teetered precariously on edge, waiting for some unseen force ready strike without warning, leaving destruction in its wake. And then came another twist. An unexpected confrontation awaited upon returning home. A photo slipped under my door, revealing more than mere evidence, capturing fleeting moments. It held power capable shattering illusions built around love once thought unbreakable. With each passing second ticking away, reminding me time slipped through fingers like sand, unable grasp tightly enough hold on to what mattered most. The weight of the photo lingered in the air like a thick fog, each glance at it igniting a fresh wave of anxiety. My husband's voice echoed in my mind, the accusation sharp and unyielding. "What were you doing with him?" The question hung between us, heavy with implications I had tried to ignore. I had thought my secret was safe, tucked away behind the facade of a mundane marriage, but here it was, laid bare for scrutiny. I paced the living room, my heart racing as I replayed the moments I had shared with my boss's son. Each laughter-filled evening on that island now felt tainted by guilt. The thrill of our connection seemed so distant in this stark reality. "I'm just tired," I finally muttered, hoping to deflect his probing gaze. "Just tired," he repeated incredulously. "Or just tired of me?" His tone cut deeper than any knife could. The truth was complicated. I was indeed weary of routine, of expectations, yet I had never intended for my weariness to lead me down this path. "Do you want to talk about it?" he pressed again, his voice softer now but still laced with suspicion. I hesitated. How could I explain the inexplicable? The spark that ignited under the stars on that remote island had transformed into a fire that threatened to consume everything in its path. "There's nothing to talk about," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. But as we stood there in silence, I felt the weight of another truth pressing against my chest, the undeniable affection that had blossomed between me and his son. It was more than mere attraction, it was a connection that filled a void I hadn't realized existed until now. A sudden knock interrupted our standoff. My husband exchanged glances with me before heading toward the door, tension radiating off him like heat from an open flame. It was our neighbor, a woman known for her penchant for gossip and an uncanny ability to sniff out secrets. "Hello. Just came by to see how you two are doing," she chirped cheerfully, oblivious to the storm brewing inside our home. My husband forced a smile while I stood frozen in place, dread pooling in my stomach. "We're fine," he replied curtly. "Oh good. You know how it is, life gets busy." She continued chatting away as if she hadn't just walked into an unspoken crisis. As she spoke about trivialities, her garden's progress and plans for an upcoming festival, I felt my heart race anew. What if she knew? What if she had seen us together? The thought sent shivers down my spine. Eventually, she took her leave after promising to bring us some baked goods later in the week. As soon as she left, tension returned like an unwelcome guest. "Did you see how she looked at you?" My husband's voice dripped with bitterness as he turned back toward me. "You think this is funny?" "I don't know what you mean," I replied defensively, though inside I felt like crumbling under his scrutiny. "You're hiding something from me." His tone shifted from anger to desperation, a plea for honesty that felt impossible to fulfill without unraveling everything we had built together over years. "I am not hiding anything." The words burst forth before I could stop them, frustration and fear mingled dangerously within me. But then came another unexpected twist, a text notification buzzed through the silence, an incoming message from him. My heart sank as I read it, "I need to see you tonight." The words were simple yet loaded with meaning only we understood, the boss's son reaching out despite knowing the precariousness of our situation. There was no denying what those words ignited within me, desire intertwined with dread. "Who is it?" My husband's eyes narrowed suspiciously as he caught sight of my expression. "No one," I lied too quickly, guilt hung heavy on my tongue. His gaze bore into mine as if searching for cracks in my facade. "Lily," he began softly, but there was an edge to his tone that made me uneasy. "I'm going out," I declared abruptly, needing space before everything spiraled beyond control. "Where?" His voice rose slightly, concern mixed with anger created a volatile cocktail of emotions swirling around us. "A friend's house," I replied evasively while slipping on my shoes, a feeble attempt at normalcy amidst chaos, but deep down inside me churned uncertainty about whether leaving would help or only exacerbate matters further. As soon as I stepped outside into the cool night air enveloping Charleston's historic streets filled with flickering lanterns illuminating cobblestone paths leading toward freedom, or perhaps further entanglement, I found myself torn between two worlds, one filled with obligations and expectations, another promising excitement but also perilous consequences if exposed too soon. The drive felt endless despite only being minutes away from our destination. The secluded beach where we first kissed under starlit skies now seemed fraught with danger rather than romance. Upon arriving at the meeting spot, a quiet stretch of sand hidden beneath swaying palms, I spotted him waiting by the water's edge silhouetted against moonlight, reflecting off gentle waves crashing rhythmically upon shorelines whispering secrets only lovers understand. "Lily," he called softly upon seeing me approach, Warmth spread through me momentarily before reality crashed back down, reminding me of everything at stake, the lives intertwined within this web spun from desire tinged by betrayal. I shouldn't be here, I admitted cautiously as apprehension gripped tightly around both our hearts, yet something pulled us closer despite warnings echoing loudly through consciousness urging caution over reckless abandon. I can't stop thinking about you. His confession hung heavily between us like mist enveloping twilight skies, obscuring clarity while igniting passion threatening reason itself. I feel it too, slipped from my lips before logic could intervene, a dangerous admission blurring lines drawn firmly by commitments once made. Yet even as we stood there lost in each other's gaze amidst crashing waves, echoing heartbeat rhythms blending seamlessly into nightfall shadows enveloping us both, completely unaware of what awaited upon returning home where truth lay waiting patiently ready to strike when least expected. The waves continued their relentless dance against the shore, their sound a haunting reminder of the turmoil brewing within me. As I stood there, gazing into the deep blue of the ocean, questions swirled like the sea foam at my feet. Could I really continue this affair? Was it worth risking everything I had built over the years? Lily, he whispered, breaking the silence that hung heavy between us. His voice was low, almost lost amid the crashing waves. What do we do now? I turned to him, searching for answers in his eyes. There was an intensity there that both excited and terrified me. I don't know, I replied honestly. This isn't just about us anymore. His brow furrowed slightly as he took a step closer. You mean your husband? The mention of my husband sent a chill through me. It was a name I had tried to avoid thinking about in moments like this. Yes, I said slowly, weighing my words carefully as if they were fragile glass. He suspects something is off. The tension between us thickened as the reality of my situation loomed large. While our connection felt electric and freeing, it also came with consequences that could unravel everything. We have to be careful, he warned, his gaze unwavering. Your marriage, it's complicated. I nodded, feeling the weight of his words sink in deeper than I expected. My mind raced back to our last encounter when he had confessed feelings that went beyond mere attraction. It complicated everything even further. Maybe you should think about what you really want, he suggested softly. What do you mean? I asked, puzzled. Your job, there's talk about a promotion coming up, he said carefully. It could change things for you. That caught me off guard. A promotion? My mind flashed to Charleston and the historic charm of my life there. My work was important to me, but so was my happiness. What are you suggesting? I asked cautiously. If you take the promotion and decide to stay with your husband, then maybe we should put an end to this. His voice dropped lower as if saying it aloud would make it more real. The idea struck me like a cold wave crashing against stone, a stark reminder of how precariously balanced my life had become. But could I truly walk away from something that made me feel alive again? I need time to think, I replied finally, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of choices laid before me. He nodded slowly but didn't look satisfied with my answer. The uncertainty hung between us like fog rolling in from the sea, a shroud that blurred our vision and clouded our judgment. As we returned to our group at the retreat center, laughter and chatter surrounded us like a warm embrace, a stark contrast to my internal chaos. Colleagues mingled under string lights strung across palm trees. They seemed blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath our surface smiles. But then something unexpected happened. One of my colleagues approached with an unusual expression on her face, one that hinted at curiosity mixed with concern. Lily, she called out cheerfully as she waved me over. Have you seen this? She held up her phone with a photo displayed prominently on its screen. My heart raced as I stepped closer and recognized the image instantly. It was a candid shot taken from afar during one of our private moments on the beach earlier that day. My stomach twisted into knots as dread washed over me. How could this happen? Where did you get this? I managed to ask through clenched teeth. "Oh, just saw it floating around in some group chat," she replied casually, oblivious to my rising panic. I forced a smile while trying desperately not to show how deeply unsettled I felt inside. The implications were dire, if word got out about what we were doing. "I have to go," I said abruptly, turning away from her before she could respond further. As I retreated back toward my room at the resort, thoughts spiraled chaotically in my mind. How could one innocent moment lead to such devastating consequences? The air felt thick with tension, as if every breath carried weighty secrets waiting to be revealed. Once inside my room, I leaned against the door for support and closed my eyes tightly against reality pressing down on me like an anchor threatening to drag me underwater where no light existed anymore. A suffocating darkness filled with fear and uncertainty about what lay ahead. Just then there was a knock at my door. Instinctively bracing myself for confrontation or perhaps more revelations than I'd bargained for, I opened it cautiously only to find him standing there, the boss's son, looking both anxious and determined all at once. "We need to talk," he said urgently before stepping inside without waiting for permission or protest from me. "What is it?" My voice barely rose above a whisper as anxiety coursed through every fiber of my being. Was this about what had been captured in that photo? "I heard some rumors." He hesitated briefly before continuing on with palpable tension hanging heavily between us now more than ever before, an invisible line drawn in sand threatening erosion by tides beyond our control. "What rumors?" My heart raced dangerously fast. Whatever he would say next could change everything yet again. The stakes felt impossibly high now more than ever before. "That someone might have seen us together." He ran his fingers through his hair anxiously while pacing slightly across the floor space separating us both, a physical barrier reflecting emotional distance growing steadily larger too despite proximity felt intensely close right now too. "What does this mean?" My voice trembled slightly despite efforts made towards composure. Fear started creeping back into focus once again alongside guilt surfacing unexpectedly too. It threatened overwhelming waves crashing down upon fragile hopes built up previously amidst chaos swirling all around. "It means we have decisions ahead." He paused deliberately, allowing silence fill void left behind by unspoken fears lingering still heavy within air surrounding us both now filled only by quiet breaths taken cautiously here together amidst uncertainty looming larger than ever before. Suddenly there came another knock on door, breaking momentary stillness shared between two hearts entwined suddenly faced with harsh realities demanding answers too soon, before either ready truly confront truth lying underneath layers built upon secrets hidden deep within shadows cast long ago. I looked toward him wide-eyed, searching desperately for reassurance but found only uncertainty mirrored back instead. Choices loomed large ahead, demanding resolution soon enough, forcing paths diverging sharply apart leading toward unknown futures waiting patiently just outside threshold crossed moments ago. And then another knock echoed through space, separating us momentarily, lost within tangled webs spun tightly around lives intertwined, precariously balancing upon edges, steep cliffs overlooking abyss below, waiting silently, hungry for missteps taken, unwittingly leading straight towards perilous falls, beckoning forth dark fates unfolding rapidly without mercy offered whatsoever. The knock on the door reverberated in my chest, a reminder of the precariousness of my situation. I glanced at the boss's son, his expression a mix of concern and confusion. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken words and unresolved tension. My heart raced as I contemplated the implications of what lay ahead. "Lily," he finally said, breaking the silence. "What are we going to do?" His voice was steady, but I could sense the underlying urgency. The weight of our choices pressed down on us, and I felt as though we were standing on a precipice, looking into an uncertain abyss. "I don't know," I admitted softly, my gaze drifting to the window where the tropical sun painted everything in golden hues. Outside, laughter echoed from the retreat's activities, a stark contrast to our heavy conversation. "Everything is so complicated right now." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Your husband knows something is off." The way he looked at me, it was like he could see right through us. Panic flickered in his eyes, and for a moment, I felt a surge of protectiveness toward him. He was just as entangled in this mess as I was. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself against the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me. I can't keep living like this, I confessed. Every moment feels like a lie. In that instant, I understood that this retreat had become more than just an escape. It had turned into a mirror reflecting all my hidden desires and fears. Just then, another knock shattered our fragile moment. It was my husband's voice calling from outside our room, sharp and demanding. "Lily. Open up." He sounded agitated, and dread washed over me. "What do we do?" he asked urgently. "Just stay quiet," I whispered back as I moved toward the door with hesitant steps. My heart thudded loudly in my ears while uncertainty gnawed at me. I opened the door slightly to find my husband standing there with an expression that sent chills down my spine, a mixture of anger and betrayal etched across his face. "We need to talk," he said firmly, pushing past me into the room without waiting for an invitation. "About what?" I tried to sound nonchalant despite feeling exposed under his scrutinizing gaze. "About you and him." He gestured towards the boss's son who stood awkwardly against the wall, eyes darting between us like a trapped animal seeking an escape route. "What are you talking about?" My voice trembled slightly as denial coursed through me. "Don't play dumb with me." His tone turned icy as he pulled out his phone and showed me a picture, a snapshot taken from some distance away during one of our moments together by the beach last night. The image captured us laughing under the moonlight. It felt like a lifetime ago when everything seemed innocent. My heart sank as reality crashed over me like cold waves against jagged rocks. My husband had been watching us all along, or at least suspected something was amiss. "Where did you get that?" I managed to ask through clenched teeth. "A neighbor saw you two together," he replied bitterly. "I thought we had something real between us." "We do." I protested weakly but knew it sounded hollow even to my own ears. His gaze shifted back to the boss's son who remained silent but visibly tense. "You think this is some game? You think you can just run off with him while pretending everything is fine at home?" Before I could respond, my husband continued, "You need to choose where your loyalties lie." His ultimatum hung in the air like an unspoken threat, a crossroads that demanded resolution but offered no comfort or clarity. "I don't want to choose." My voice rose higher than intended, frustration bubbling over within me as tears threatened to spill down my cheeks. "You have to," he shouted back before taking a step closer to me, his presence both familiar yet foreign all at once. The tension crackled in the air around us. It felt suffocating yet electric with possibility, choices laid bare before us like a map leading into uncharted territory filled with both promise and peril. Meanwhile, my mind raced through memories, moments shared with him, the warmth of his embrace during late-night conversations, laughter echoing around campfires under starlit skies, stolen kisses that ignited something deep within me that had long been dormant. Yet here stood my husband, a man who had once held my heart but whose actions had pushed us apart over time until we became little more than strangers sharing space rather than lives intertwined deeply enough to weather storms together. And then there was him, the boss's son, who represented everything exhilarating yet forbidden about life beyond these walls. Freedom wrapped up in uncertainty that beckoned enticingly despite potential consequences looming large overhead like dark clouds threatening rain without warning. "Lily," he spoke suddenly breaking through my thoughts again, his tone softer now yet laced with urgency too palpable to ignore any longer, "we need to figure this out before it spirals further out of control." I nodded slowly, feeling torn between two worlds colliding violently around me, leaving little room for solace amidst chaos unfolding rapidly beyond comprehension itself. As if sensing my hesitation hanging thickly between us, all three caught within this web spun tight around hearts yearning desperately for clarity amidst confusion swirling endlessly around choices made recklessly without thought given towards repercussions faced head-on. Soon enough. Suddenly another revelation struck me, a memory flickering back into focus. Overheard whispers among colleagues earlier regarding not just affairs but long-hidden secrets buried beneath layers of pretense cloaked carefully behind smiles exchanged daily. What if there were more hidden truths lurking beneath surfaces too polished for comfort? What if betrayal ran deeper than mere physical connections? My breath caught sharply as realization dawned upon me, my husband's own infidelity perhaps lurking somewhere beneath surface-level grievances alone. But before I could voice these thoughts aloud or confront him about them directly, another knock broke through, once more followed swiftly by voices echoing down hallway leading towards our door, growing louder by seconds ticking away, relentlessly reminding us time waits for no one, especially when stakes rise high enough, forcing decisions made swiftly without pause given. The boss appeared suddenly, flanked by other colleagues rushing forth amidst chaos unfolding rapidly, threatening stability once held tightly grasped, now slipping through fingers, grasping desperately onto remnants left behind. "Lily, we need you." His tone urgent, demanded attention, drawing focus away from personal dramas unfolding within confines previously safe, now feeling increasingly claustrophobic instead. And just like that, everything shifted again, leaving no choice left except one. Confront truths hidden beneath facades worn daily, risking everything known thus far, plunging headfirst into unknown depths, awaiting discovery ahead regardless consequences faced inevitably soon enough. In that moment, standing amidst swirling emotions clashing fiercely against each other, I knew whatever path chosen next would lead towards irrevocable change, forever altering lives intertwined, intricately bound together too tightly, now fraying edges unraveling, slowly revealing hidden depths lying beneath surfaces far too polished for comfort anymore. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil waters surrounding the island. I stood at the edge of the beach, my heart racing as I contemplated the weight of my choices. The air was thick with salt and tension, mirroring the storm brewing within me. Every moment spent here had led to this, a reckoning that felt both liberating and terrifying. As I gazed out at the waves crashing against the shore, memories flooded my mind. The laughter shared with the boss's son, our stolen moments under the stars, and whispers of dreams yet to unfold, tangled together in a web of desire and guilt. Yet, now, standing on this precipice, I had to confront my reality. "Lily," his voice broke through my thoughts. I turned to see him approaching, his expression a mix of concern and longing. "We need to talk." "About what?" My voice was steadier than I felt inside. "About us," he replied, stepping closer. "About what happens next." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words settle heavily on my shoulders. "What do you want from me? What can we possibly have in a world filled with so many complications?" He hesitated for a moment, searching for words that could bridge our two lives. "I don't want to lose what we have," he said finally. "But it feels like everything is falling apart around us." His honesty struck me hard. It mirrored my own fears about losing not just him but everything else, the life I had built with my husband and all its familiar comforts. And yet, those comforts felt suffocating now. "I can't keep living two lives," I admitted quietly. "It's tearing me apart." He nodded slowly, understanding etched across his features. "Then maybe it's time to make a choice." The weight of those words hung in the air between us like an invisible barrier, one that separated our dreams from harsh realities. In that moment, everything shifted again, clarity emerged amidst confusion. Just then, a shout echoed from behind us, a colleague waving frantically as she approached. "Lily, you need to see this." Her face was pale, panic evident in her eyes. "What is it?" I asked sharply. She held out her phone with trembling hands. On the screen was a photo, a snapshot of me and him taken from afar during one of our private moments on the beach last night when we spent the night together. No, my heart sank as dread washed over me like cold water. I didn't want you to find out this way, she stammered apologetically. But everyone is talking about it. I felt exposed under their scrutiny. Shame washed over me like an unwanted tide pulling away any sense of security I had clung to until now. What are they saying? My voice barely rose above a whisper. That you're having an affair with him. It's all over social media. Her words were like daggers piercing through layers of denial I had wrapped around myself for protection. The world seemed to spin as reality crashed down around me. My husband's suspicions suddenly magnified into undeniable truth for all to see. The thought of returning home now felt impossible. How could I face him after this? We can fix this, he urged softly as if sensing my despair deepening into panic. Fix what? My voice cracked under pressure. You think we can just pretend none of this happened? That it's all going to be fine? He reached for my hand but pulled back as if afraid he might burn me with his touch now tainted by public scrutiny. We'll figure something out together, he insisted desperately. But togetherness felt like an illusion now, one that crumbled under scrutiny and judgment from others who didn't understand our connection or its complexities. I need time, I said finally before turning away from him toward the ocean where waves continued crashing relentlessly against rocks below, a reflection of turmoil swirling within myself too chaotic for words anymore. As dusk settled into twilight shadows cloaked everything around us, the island once serene transformed into something foreboding filled with uncertainty about what lay ahead waiting just beyond reach. I walked away without looking back, every step taking me further from what once felt possible toward an ending only beginning to unfold before me, a path leading toward unknown consequences waiting patiently in silence.